go through now how we're going to create an aperture opening for a curtain wall. And I have on the screen a Revit family element, a curtain wall pattern, pattern-based. I'm not exactly sure the nomenclature, and we'll get into that when we move into the creation of it. But the idea here is this is just a family element that can be inserted into a rectilinear curtain wall system as the component within it, and then gets repeated out. And we've made this into a parametrically functioning unit, and it has a solid mass for the whole geometry that fits into the curtain wall, plus the inside is what I call an aperture, because it's just really an opening in the wall without actually a lens through it or glass or glazing system. And so it allows us to just quickly model without a lot of detail. But what I've established, and let me go back to this view just to make sure we're all clear on that. In the 3D view, you can see how I've also got this other element, which is what we call a light shelf. We won't use this right away. This is just available to experiment with some of the modeling techniques that we're going to use going forward. Let me jump back to the exterior view of this now and describe some of the parametric or parameters, should I say, that we've set up for it. I have a half window width that allows this void space to be parametrically adjusted, and I've locked those elements to the side. I have what I'm calling a spandrel, which is kind of a hybrid. It's a combination of everything that goes from the top of the window to the top of the next element in the curtain wall system. So it's not actually a spandrel. It's part of a spandrel that would be needed to be connected to the sill. But I use that spandrel just to give the idea of differentiating it from the floor to sill dimension. And both of the idea here is that we want both of these dimensions to be parametric, which means we can vary their the opening according to changing parameters within inside of the Revit project document. I also have another parameter, which is the height of the, well, actually this is a fixed one. It's not a parameter. It doesn't have a name to it. But this is a fixed height to the light shelf that would be constructed also. So we've got 3 parameters and 1 fixed dimension here. So let's go ahead now and look at how we're actually going to construct this element. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to open up a new family element, and I need to drag on my window that pops up for this. So I have to get a little control of my mouse to get to the other screen and drag this over. So I've opened up the family template file, and I selected New, so I can now grab a curtain wall panel. I don't want to grab the pattern base because this is a curtain wall panel with the idea that it could fit on a curvilinear surface, which has adaptive points to fit to that surface. And we're using, I guess for another term, a plain vanilla curtain wall panel, which goes to rectilinear flat surfaces. We'll go ahead and open that. And just to save a little screen clutter, I'm going to close off at least one of these views. I'll leave that view on, but I'll close off the view of the first one. And now we'll go to what we have is how the document would open as a new one, where you'll create your element. And we're looking at the exterior view. These are the parameters or the reference planes that define the fit into the curtain wall system. And right away, the first thing we want to do is create an extrusion. So I'm going to use the extrusion tool, and I'm going to make a rectangle. I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and lock all those off so that they're locked to the sides of our curtain wall system. And we'll just complete that off. It's going to make an extrusion 1 foot deep. We could actually modify that. Let's just make that 6 feet or 6 inches. So it's not quite so thick. And we'll check complete. And we'll just take a quick view of that in 3D so we can get a feeling for what we have here. All right, so that's our curtain wall panel. The width and height are going to be determined as they fit into the assembly, so it may look a little bit odd at this point. And we'll go back to the, we don't really need, well, we'll keep the right view open, but I'll go back to the exterior view. Now we need to create that aperture. So the way we want to do that is first to define a couple of reference planes. So I'm going to go to Create, grab a reference plane, and I'm just going to arbitrarily make 2 reference planes here. Actually, I could make all 4 of them while we're here because we know we want to make an opening. And what we want to do is we can go ahead and make our void. So I'll go Create, go to Extrusion, And I hope I'm not going to get into trouble doing this first, but I'm going to go ahead and lock these to these 4 reference planes that I've created. Click complete, and then go to our 3D view, and let's pull this out so this goes all the way through. I thought I created a void space. I may not have. Solid. So let's go to void, and it's not cutting that. Let me go back. Let me just step back to where I was. I forgot. Maybe I just missed a step here doing this void space. I probably selected the wrong tool, so I'm sorry for the little delay here. Let's go back to the front elevation, and I'll cancel out of this. Create, and I'm sorry, I selected extrusion, but I really wanted void form probably. And we'll go ahead and redraw that. Click complete, and let's take a look at it again. And there we have our void extrusion through that assembly. Okay, so with that done now, what we really don't have is the ability to adjust this as we insert it into the curtain wall. So what we need to do is add some parameters to this. So I'm going to go back to the exterior, and I'm going to go ahead and add a dimension from here to here. Whoops. And what I want to do is grab that dimension and now change it to a parameter. So I'm going to go and create a new parameter, and we'll call it sill height. And we're going to call it a type parameter so we globally adjust it. We can look later on at the idea of instant parameter adjustments. And I'm going to click OK. Now that's established as a parameter, and I could actually change this parameter by editing it, I believe. So let me see how I can do that easily. Yes, there I can double click on this. And let's just change that to 11 inches for this, so that moves down. And there you see how our window opens up to the larger new definition of that parameter. So we've got a few more to insert here. So I'm going to insert another dimension. And we'll select this, and we'll make that a new parameter, and we'll call that Spandrel. Click OK. Now that's a Spandrel dimension. And then we have this idea of the width of the window. So let's go ahead and create our window width parameter. So I'm going to grab the tool to add a dimension, and I'm going to do this twice. And I'm doing that so that we're dimensioning off the center line. We could set up a little more complex way of dimensioning the window, but I'm going to use the half window width as the parameter that we change. And I'll go through and create our new parameter, and I'll call it, let's see if it'll allow us to put new digits in, window width. And then we're going to select the other one and give it that same parameter. And now we can change this number. Whoops. Let's change this just to make it a little more dynamic so that you can see it. I'll just change this to 6 inches. Oops, I got a little typo in there. Oh. Oh, and there's our window aperture. I'll change this back to another little more reasonable value, but you can see how that now automatically resizes because it's half of the same dimension. And I've got to grab that dimension somehow. Can't figure out how to change that parameter. No. I'm not getting dimensions off of this, so let's see if I double click on this. I'm sorry, I'm wasting video time. I want to see how to edit this. I'm not finding that, but we'll come back to that. I don't want to spend much longer on this clip because I want you to be able to go ahead and insert this back into your model. So let's end this part of the construction of the parametric element, and the next thing we'll look at is inserting it into the model.